theories of motivation which attempt to explain where the drive to want to work comes from, and more importantly, how to generate motivation in an individual. I'm going to take you through 3 of these theories now and demonstrate how they actually work with some practical examples. I want to be clear that we're not going to spend lots and lots of time on the academic theories and concepts. I'm going to give you the gist of the theory and then apply them to some real-world examples. The 3 theories we're going to cover in the next section of this lesson are Maslow's hierarchy of needs, Herzberg's 2-factor theory, and Vroom's expectancy theory. So let's start with Maslow. In the 1940s, Abraham Maslow, an American psychologist, postulated a theory about human needs. Maslow's theory is based on the premise that human beings are motivated by needs, and as one set of needs are fulfilled, so humans are motivated to fulfill the next set of needs. This was called the hierarchy of needs. Maslow ranked the needs and said that as basic, lower-level needs are filled, then the person seeks to fulfill the next level of need, and that's what drives motivation. You will remember that in Lesson 1 of this module, we spoke about work fulfilling different kinds of needs, and Maslow's thinking is definitely infused here. This idea of a hierarchy is best illustrated by a pyramid. At the bottom, the most basic needs humans have are physiological. These are things that we physically need to survive, and they form our primary source of motivation. This idea is not hard to understand. If you're starving, then your primary motivation is to find food. That's what's driving you. Trying to motivate you to do something else that meets another kind of need is futile, because you can't care about anything else until you've satisfied that basic need. Once a person's physiological needs are satisfied, their safety needs start to take precedence and dominate their behavior. This is about achieving personal safety, as in bodily safety, but also a sense of security and prosperity, sometimes called economic safety. People need to feel that they are personally, emotionally, and financially secure, and that there is a sense of continuity and stability to their lives. In the organizational context, creating job security and a sense of job safety becomes very important to fulfill this need. Once the physiological and safety needs are fulfilled, people then need to feel a sense of love, belonging, and human connection. According to Maslow, humans possess a strong need for a sense of belonging and acceptance among social groups, regardless of whether these groups are large or small. Some examples of large groups could be religious groups, professional organizations, or sports teams, and small ones could be a small immediate family, an intimate partner, a mentor, or colleagues. Humans need to love and be loved by others, and the need to form connections is a strong motivational pull at work. Can you think of the kind of jobs that motivate people with a strong belonging need? Perhaps people who work for care-based organizations like nursing or non-profits, or maybe going into teaching or politics, where connection and belonging to a large group is paramount. When the first 3 classes of needs are satisfied, then the need for esteem becomes dominant. Humans have a need for stable, firmly based high levels of self-respect and respect from others. Esteem is about feeling good about oneself, and humans get esteem in 2 ways, internally or externally. Internally, a person judges himself or herself worthy by personally defined standards. High self-esteem results in self-confidence, independence, achievement, competence, and knowledge. Most people, however, seek external esteem through social approval and esteem from other people, judging themselves by what other people think of them. When esteem needs are satisfied, a person feels self-confident and valuable in the world. When these needs are frustrated, the person will start to feel inferior, helpless, and worthless. It's not hard to see that for most people living relatively affluent lives, the first 3 levels of human needs are met quite easily, and so they are often focused and motivated to meet the esteem need. And work really plays into this, because it creates an environment where performance feedback is quite constant. You know when you're succeeding or failing at your job. And for those of us who are motivated by recognition and acknowledgement of our capability, this need to feel valuable and recognized is a highly motivating factor at work. When all of the foregoing needs are satisfied, then and only then are the needs for self-actualization activated. To understand this level, a person must not only succeed in the previous needs, but also master them. Maslow describes self-actualization as a person's need to be and do what they were born to do. Self-actualization is about fulfilling potential, and becoming the most successful version of yourself. This can mean different things to different people. For example, one person may have a particular desire to become an ideal parent. Someone else may want to succeed athletically or invent something completely new. Self-actualized people are characterized by efficient perceptions of reality. They're able to judge situations correctly and honestly. And they are very sensitive to superficial and dishonest information. They can really see reality as it is. They're reliant on their own experiences and judgment. They don't rely on the culture or the environment in order to form opinions and views. They're autonomous. Self-actualizers are free from reliance on external authorities, and they tend to be resourceful and independent. And they have the ability to experience peak experiences. These are temporary moments of contentedness and deep meaning. Here's a challenge for you. I want you to draw a pyramid with Maslow's 5 levels of needs, and then I want you to think about your current role. What human needs of yours do you think it's meeting? And is that need what's motivating you to go on and perform in your job? Now let's talk about Herzberg's two-factor theory. Frederick Herzberg was born in the US in Massachusetts in 1923. He published his famous two-factor theory, which attempted to explain motivation and job satisfaction, and it's sometimes called the motivation hygiene theory. Herzberg's two-factor theory came even before Maslow's hierarchy of needs and was probably the first piece of research ever conducted on workforce motivation. He said employees are motivated when both hygiene factors and motivational factors are at play at work. Let's just unpack that a little bit more. Herzberg proposed that certain aspects of work are motivational in nature. They are drivers of employee satisfaction. Effectively, he said that these aspects, which are intrinsic to the nature of the job, will have a positive impact on the sentiment the employee feels and will raise motivation levels. Motivators are long-term intrinsic factors, meaning that they come from the inside. They're part and parcel of the job. And they are sustainable. They will last in the longer term. He identified motivators as things like doing challenging work, recognition for your achievement, being given some responsibility or autonomy in the job, having the opportunity to do something meaningful and being involved in decision-making, and a sense of importance to the organization. You can see that all those aspects come from internally within the job. They're not from the external environment. Herzberg then said that there are characteristics of work which will not motivate employees, but if they are not in place or if they are substandard, they will demotivate the employee as a result of his or her dissatisfaction. He called these hygiene factors, which means that they are a basic requirement, but alone they won't motivate people. Herzberg said hygiene factors are things like company policies, adequate levels of supervision, a decent relationship with your supervisor and peers, standard working conditions that are acceptable to the employee, a reasonable salary, reasonable levels of status, and job security. The idea here is that you have to satisfy the hygiene factors in order to create a base level of satisfaction. But if you really want to get an employee motivated to do a good job, then you need to look at the motivation factors. The interesting thing about Herzberg's almost 60-year-old theory is that it emphasizes the importance of intrinsic motivation factors. The theory says that paying someone more or giving them more holiday is not enough to motivate them. Yet those things do matter in the sense that if they're not there, workers will be unhappy. I want to take a moment here to just pause and think about the paradox of today's organizations. The interesting thing about Herzberg's almost 60-year-old theory is that it emphasizes the importance of intrinsic motivation factors. The theory says that paying someone more or giving them more holiday is not enough to motivate them. And yet, most companies are very concerned with extrinsic hygiene factors. They spend a lot of time and money trying to improve those, and they don't focus on the intrinsic motivational factors, which is really where you get people to want to do a good job. Here are some aspects of the workplace which you can decide. Are they hygiene factors or are they motivational factors? Let's take a look. Autonomy and control of your own work, paid leave or vacation, achieving difficult goals, challenging work, a flexible work policy, good pay, fresh air and light, and a sense of value. Which of those are hygiene factors and which are motivation factors? Let's take a look. Under hygiene factors is paid leave, flexible work policy, good pay, and fresh air and light. These things are basic requirements. They must be in play. But if you really want to get somebody motivated, you need to give them some difficult goals to achieve in their job. You need to give them autonomy and control of their own work, and a challenge, as well as a sense of value. You may recall that in Lesson 1, we spoke about a famous organizational psychologist who's still doing interesting work today, Vroom. He developed a theory of motivation called expectancy theory, which explains what motivates people to choose one course of action over another. Vroom focused on trying to explain the mental process of choosing, and he introduced 3 key variables, which I'm going to unpack in a second. Let's just start with the basics of expectancy theory. Expectancy theory says that employees are likely to be motivated if 4 conditions are met. The first is that they perceive a positive correlation between efforts and performance, meaning that if they put in some effort, they'll get a better performance. Secondly, a better performance will result in a desirable reward. They must see some kind of prize at the end. And that reward must satisfy an important need. You can't give them a reward which doesn't really meet any of the needs they have. And that need needs to be strong enough to make the effort worthwhile. The idea here is that depending on what the employee expects to be the outcome of his or her efforts, they will be sufficiently motivated or not. Vroom introduced 3 key variables: expectancy, instrumentality, and valence, and I'm going to talk you through what those are. Expectancy is the belief that one's effort will result in the attainment of a desired performance goal. This is usually based on the individual's past experience, their levels of self-confidence, and the perceived difficulty of the performance standard. Instrumentality is the belief that a person will receive a reward if the performance expectation is met. This reward may present itself in the form of a pay increase or promotion or some sense of recognition. Instrumentality will be low if the reward given is the same no matter what the level of performance. Valence is the value an individual places on the rewards of an outcome, which is based on their needs, their goals, their values, and what motivates them. Expectancy theory has been helpful in guiding leaders to put incentivization or motivational programs in the workplace in place. Let's try to put expectancy theory into play with a fictional example. Imagine a company makes widgets, and on average, workers make 80 widgets a day. The company decides to put in place an incentive scheme to motivate their employees to be more productive. The scheme says that if an employee can make 100 widgets in a day, he or she will be paid an extra 30%. Employees can see that their direct efforts will lead to the generation of 100 widgets, so the expectancy level is high. Secondly, the employees believe that the company really does have the funds to pay them more for higher performance, so the instrumentality levels are good enough. And lastly, the employees all really need the extra money, so the value or the valence level of the reward is sufficient. Because all 3 variables are of an adequate level, the employee will be motivated by the incentive scheme. That's expectancy theory in action.